After extensively using my 250-gallon offset smoker over the last 6 months, I have come to the conclusion that this is the best offset smoker for the backyard barbecue enthusiast, if you have the backyard space. Strong words, I know. But since I've gotten this smoker, I have done 3 catered events, and I've done a lot of one-off cooks that you can see on my channel. From briskets, ribs, chicken breast, whole chickens, pork shoulders, and probably more that I'm not remembering right now. So to kick off this hot take, I'm gonna start off with some misconceptions that I had about this smoker, because maybe some of you have the same concerns I had. So first off, I wanna talk about the smokestack. So the original design for this 250 had a 4-foot stack that extended from the hinge to the top of the stack. However, this part was reduced down to 30 inches so that the stack could fold down, and that just made it so it's easy to store and also for transport. So my original concern was that this was going to affect the draw in the smoker, which in short affects the convection speed and also the smoker's ability to maintain the fire and heat inside of the cook chamber. However, in reality, the draw in this smoker is insane. I'm basically forced to use the damper at the top of the smokestack, because if I don't, the draw is way too strong and the flames in the firebox get sucked right into the cooking chamber. And that happens even if I'm just burning 2 or 3 splits in the firebox. And I think that the width of the stack is actually what saved the draw in the smoker, because it's about 8 inches in diameter down here, and then it reduces down to 6 inches. And I think it's just because there's just so much width for the air to escape out of, the draw was just really good in the smoker. So remember, don't just look at length when you're looking at a smoker smokestack, also consider the width as well. So just keep this in mind if you're looking for a smoker of this size, because from my experience, 30 inches from the hinge or 40 inches from the elbow of the stack in the 250 will give you plenty of draw. The next thing I need to talk about is the fuel consumption. So in my original review video for this 250, I estimated that this smoker uses about 4 times as much wood as my Pecos. But these numbers were vastly inflated because basically I wasn't managing my fire properly. So originally my smoker was getting way too much draw. And this was due to, first of all, not using the damper on the smokestack, and second of all, keeping the door too wide open on the firebox. This made it so that my fire got way too much oxygen, and at the same time, the smoke was going through the cook chamber way too fast and out of the smokestack. So by running my fire this way, basically after like 20 minutes, my splits inside of the firebox were completely turned into charcoal, because big splits like this one would basically make the cooking chamber way too hot. But as I continued to cook, I finally learned how to slow down the draw inside of my smoker, just like I explained in my fire management video, which completely fixed this problem. So now I am running my fire much more effectively, and as a result, on top of not having to use so much wood, I'm also getting really excellent smoke flavor on my barbecue. So if you guys are interested at all in my fire management technique, I will have a link in the description for my fire management video. But another added benefit of running a proper fire is that all of these splits are fair game. I do not have to break down any more of these. So even this massive, log like this, all of it can burn inside of the firebox very easily as long as I have a big enough coal bed. When I first got the 250, it was really annoying because I had to basically break down all of my splits with a kindling cracker, and with the oak like this that's so dense, like I was just getting blisters on my hands and just hurting my back doing that. So I get a rick of oak for about $120 shipped and stacked. And I use about 5% of a rick when I do a 9-hour brisket cook. So in terms of wood costs, now that I'm running my smoker correctly, it's only costing me like $5 in fuel, even if I'm just smoking 1 brisket. And that's cheaper than it would cost me to buy some B&B splits for my old country Pecos or pellets for my Camp Chef pellet smoker. My next concern was covering the smoker to protect it from the elements, because I live in Tennessee, so the weather changes all the time. It could be a beautiful sunny day, and then 15 minutes later, there's a tornado with sideways rain. So originally, to combat the elements, I bought this tarp from Lowe's to cover up the smoker, and I also got some bungee cords to try and tie it down, but time and time again, as soon as a gust of wind came, it would just blow the tarp off. So I ended up just using it for my wood splits now. So I just cover it up so that the wood splits don't get wet from the rain. But even though things did not work out as I planned for this tarp, I was very fortunate because an easy way to protect your smoker from the elements was very simple. So I got this tip from JD from the Q-Tutorials YouTube channel and also Primitive Pits. But just coat your smoker in boiled linseed oil. So linseed oil is super dope because first of all, it's pretty cheap by the bottle. And secondly, once the oil sets on your smoker, it leaves a really nice, shiny, not sticky coat, and the water just rolls off of it when it rains. So usually I'll apply the oil at the end of the cook. I'll just get the pit ripping hot, then add some linseed oil to a bucket, then get get an old t-shirt and apply it over the entire smoker. I will say the coat wears off pretty quick around the firebox because the firebox just gets so hot because of course it's holding the fire. So I think the oil just like burns off that area. So you kind of have to apply linseed oil a lot more frequently than you would for the rest of the smoker. So as you can see, clearly I have some rust here on my firebox and also in between it, because clearly I just haven't coated it with linseed oil in a while. But I just need to get some steel wool, scrape off the rust, wash it down a little bit, apply a new coat of oil, and it's good as new. And that's the benefit of having 1/4 inch steel on your smoker. Rust is really not that big of a deal, as long as you don't get it inside of the smoker. If my Old Country Pecos got rusted, it would be a much bigger deal because the metal is just so much thinner. So with an industrial size smoker like this, I was concerned I was gonna have to buy all types of equipment to be able to operate a smoker of this size. But this is not the case at all. In fact, all of the tools that I use to operate this smoker cost less than $50. So the most useful tool, in my opinion, is this old shovel that I got from my father-in-law's garage. This is the ultimate fire management tool. I use this to move around the ash and the wood splits in the firebox and also to clean it up after I'm done cooking. One thing I need to say is that I think that a square shovel is much better than this spade shovel that I have here, because in comparison to a square shovel, it is a little bit harder to balance the log splits on this shovel head when you're trying to add wood to your firebox. Also, because my firebox is square on the outside and also the inside, it's kind of hard to get the edges of the firebox when I'm cleaning it out with this spade shovel head. But at the same time, I've been using this shovel for like 6 months and it works fine. The other tools are pretty standard for any offset smoker. So I use a drip bucket, I use cotton liners with nitrile gloves to handle the meat, and also high temp gloves if I have to go inside of my firebox and mess around. But this next tool I cannot recommend enough if you're gonna get a big pit like this, and it's this propane torch that I got from Harbor Freight. This thing makes starting your fire so easy. And for me, when I first started using my 250, I was using a charcoal chimney, but this torch completely outclasses the chimney if you're using a big offset. Also, you can use this to sear a steak or a tri-tip if you're doing a reverse sear. And the best part about it is this tool is like $15. So yes, a propane tank is kind of pricey at about $50, but you could always go into your father-in-law's garage, take one of his tanks, and then refill it at Walmart for like 15 bucks. So the major downside of these smokers is they're really pricey right now, especially with the cost of steel at the moment. But based on Big Phil smokers out in Texas, the market for a 250 right now is about $6 grand. But with that said, if you're already in the market for a mil scale 94 or something of that caliber, the huge upgrade you get in terms of cooking space inside of the 250 is worth the additional cost in my opinion. But alternatively, you can also build one yourself. I've heard great things about smokerplans.net, and you can get blueprints for a 250 for about $100. So just get a welding kit, buy a tank on Craigslist, watch a few YouTube videos on how to weld, and build a smoker over the next few weekends. But the 250 is the best offset for a backyard setup, granted if you have the space for it, because first of all, you can cook a ton of food in here. Depending on the size, you can fit like 12 to 15 briskets inside of this cook chamber. So if you get yourself a 250-gallon offset, a big Yeti cooler to hot hold your food, and an easy up, you basically can make a barbecue pop-up operation in your very own backyard, make your money back really fast, as long as your barbecue isn't completely terrible. Vic from FixQ here on YouTube is running an operation very similar to this, and he's absolutely killing it. In fact, he's doing so well, he had to upgrade his smoker, and he just picked up a 500-gallon mil scale. So I highly recommend you check out his YouTube channel so you can see how he runs his barbecue operations. And I'll have a link to his channel in the description so you can check out his content and subscribe. And on the flip side, if you're managing your fire properly, if you're smoking one brisket or one pork butt, you can make some of the best barbecue in your entire life with the 250. And like I mentioned earlier, the fuel costs are very minimal. So to see a perfect example of this, make sure to watch the next video on your screen where I smoke a single brisket on my 250-gallon offset using my original brisket junior method, which makes a perfectly smoked brisket with virtually no waste.